Sure. Well, Hubert, wait, it's been a long time since you played the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
I think 7 or 8 weeks maybe. Just how would you say they are different than the first team that you saw? You know, it seems like Burns is less involved, and you have Middlebrooks and Diarra and those guys.
Well, I wouldn't say DJ Burns is less involved. I mean, he's just so dominant on the offensive end. His ability to score and to pass just causes tremendous problems for any defense. I think probably the biggest difference in NC State now than when we played them earlier in the conference season is they're playing bigger now. They've got a big lineup. And so for them now, you know, they're athletic, they're long, they're big. It allows them to be really, I think, even better defensively, rebounding the basketball, attacking the basket. And so that's probably the biggest difference. But in terms of them, you know, from a defensive standpoint, they throw a number of different defenses at you to try to create steals or to speed you up. And, you know, for us offensively, we can't allow whatever defense they play, however they play it, to decide and dictate how we play and how efficient we are on the offensive end.
You said a couple weeks ago that you don't have a player on this roster that's been in this situation before this time of the year. How different is this time of the year for you in your third year as a head coach?
I don't think it's any different. This is my third year as head coach at March 1st, so I don't think it's any different at all. It's just a regular season of the ACC, and we got an opportunity to play a game at home on Saturday afternoon.
State creates a lot of stuff off the dribble. Several guys can create their own shots off the dribble. How much do you get a feel early for how much you're going to switch in a game like this or not switch? Or do you scrap the plan maybe going in, or do you stick with it because they can have a lot of success creating with the dribble?
No, I mean, you have a plan, and then you also have adjustments and tweaks and alters and changes depending on what guys do out there on the floor. But you're right, they've got a number of guys that can make plays off the bounce. They have, you know, playmakers, whether it's in the post with Burns or, you know, out on the perimeter with Horn. And so they have a number of guys that can make plays. And so for us defensively, it's going to put us in situations where we have to win our individual one-on-one matchup, be able to contain, keep them out of the paint. Because once you get into rotations, that's when they're really good in terms of attacking closeouts, hitting threes, getting to the free throw line, and that's not something that we want to do defensively.
Their backs are kind of against the wall right now as far as their tournament resume. How do you kind of get your team ready to face it, a team that might be playing pretty desperate and extra?
We're desperate too.
Yeah.
We're desperate too. We're a desperate team too. There's a sense of urgency for us to win this game. There's a sense of urgency for us to win at home. There's a hunger and thirst with us in terms of our preparation, our practice, and our play. And that's something that I communicate and talk to the guys all the time, that hunger and thirst should always be there until the last day that you stop playing basketball. So both teams will be ready to play.
How do you get that when things are going good for you guys, though?
Turning down and turning off the noise. It really does. You know, as I said before, you know, I've said that, you know, it comes in two different directions, and the hardest one to deal with, which is a surprise to most, is handling the noise of praise and prosperity, and understanding and realizing what has allowed you individually and as a team to be successful is all the little details, all the hard work, all the little things that make big things happen. And those are the things that we talk about daily and I hold them accountable of, and in hopes that that hunger and thirst never goes away.
You said Monday night that the film session Wednesday would be interesting, and among the things you said you guys would talk about the entry passes. How was the film session? What were some of the things?
I thought the film session was great. It was.
What are some of the things you really have to nail down now? March is here, that you just have to improve 10%, 15% in order to be the team you need to be and can be moving forward?
Well, it was reinforcement again about just, you know, the details, the little things that do make big things happen, and also just things that we have, you know, we've talked about that it's been taught and that they're talented enough to do, and that we have to do that on a consistent basis. And so, as I said before, it's very fortunate that we were able to have a learning experience after a win. And those are things that, for us to have success as a team, especially down the stretch, those are things that you can't do. And you talked about entry passes, press offense execution, making free throws, boxing out. But we also showed good things too. And we gave examples of the little things of Jay Witt knocking down those 2 free throws, Jay Witt and Harrison getting offensive rebounds off of free throws, and those little things, those execution that allowed us to be successful. So it was a film session of things that we need to improve on, but it's also to reinforce some good things that we were doing as well.
Coach, are those film sessions coach-led or player-led, or is it kind of more of a conversation?
It's never player-led. It's always coach-led. It's always coach-led, and the film session is one. I'm a visual learner, and I think it's good for the guys to see, to be reinforced what has been said to them, so they can see it on the film. In order for them to learn. And I think it's a great tool to be able to move forward. I've always said a mistake is good when you recognize it, admit it, learn from it, and grow from it. And so if you can see it out there on the film, that's something that could give you, moving forward, not to be able to do it again and even do it even better.
When you did go back and watch the film, Hubert, just you personally, what about RJ's night the other night maybe stood out to you that you might not have noticed in the heat of the game when you're trying to claw out a win? There was so much.
There was a lot. One of the things that for RJ's, 42, it didn't feel like 42 from the standpoint of his shots, they come within the offense. It's just in rhythm. It's not anything out of character. And so just in the rhythm of our offense at halftime, he had 20-something points. And I didn't realize or really recognize how hot he was until the latter part of the second half. And when, he just took over at the top of the key, and his moves and those threes, being able to create separation and the crowd going crazy. And for the second time that I've heard this season, the crowd chanting his name. I still didn't know how many points he had until towards the end. I felt like somebody said it's 41 or 42, and we needed every bit of it. But the thing for me is not the points. For me is I get to see the behind the scenes. I get to see what he does before and after practice, what he does in the summertime, what he does at midnight when he comes in and gets extra shots. And to see that play out, the shots that he took and made, those are shots that he practices all the time. And to be able to have a front row seat, to be able to see him do that in a game situation on national TV, that's just really cool.
Hubert, as magical as that night was for RJ, how much do you not want to see a box score like that two games in a row where you have one player scoring, that amount of points?
I'm okay with that. If we win, Armando gonna go for 42 tomorrow. I've got no problem with that. And if RJ wants to go for 42 again, I have no problem with that. As I said before, one of the things that's really good about our team is that it can come from many different parts. RJ can have 42, Armando can score a lot, and then Cormac can get hot like he did against Virginia. Harrison had a big game against NC State the first matchup in terms of scoring and rebounding. So I think that's one of the cool things about this team is that there's a number of guys that can have career big nights.
Hubert, just kind of speaking of that last NC State game, the last time you guys played them, Elliot Kadeem had a pretty solid, growth point. To that point, had 11 and 6. And obviously, he's been a starter most of this year. We've seen what he can do. But I guess kind of as the year has progressed, how have you noticed, the progression of his ability to kind of control the game, from the point guard spot?
Well, I thought, he continues to get better. The thing that I love about him is that he's getting better at understanding, because he's so gifted, but understanding the importance of preparation and practice, and just how hard and how well he's practicing, understanding the details and stepping up defensively, how comfortable every day he's becoming. you can hear his voice more in the locker room, on the bus, in the meal room now, and that type of growth and him feeling more comfortable is really cool to see. But he did have a really good game against NC State, being able to penetrate and find guys, and I thought he also did a really nice job defensively as well.
Yeah, and then I guess when a guy is, being more vocal behind the scenes, seems more comfortable around his teammates. I guess kind of how have you, especially for a freshman like a young player like he is, how do you kind of see that just translate just on the court and like in games?
Well, I do. I think the relationship piece for this team has translated on the court, not just specifically for Elliot. I've said before from the start that for whatever reason, this group has enjoyed being together, being a team, and because of how connected they are, it has translated out there on the floor in terms of communication and playing together and celebrating your teammates' success. And so Elliot is a demonstration of that, but I would say the entire team is a demonstration of that as well.
Going back to RJ and the work, that step back is on a different level for him this year than it had been previously. How much of that is the work on the step back, but also recognizing not when to take it into the lane? And he drives enough that defenders have to honor the fact he can get in the lane, but learning when the step back is going to work now, as opposed to previously maybe he might get in the lane a little too often and maybe not utilize the step back.
Yeah, I mean the step back it's real. It's and it looks like he's driving into the lane. And you're right, just his ability to be able to get into the lane and be able to finish, floaters, get fouled, get to the free throw line. He's got a really good mid-range pull up. And so, that ability to be able to do that makes defenses think that he's doing that. To be able to stop on a dime with either foot, either direction, and to be able to have the balance to be able to go straight up and straight down on a shot from three is elite. There's very few guys that can do that, and he's one of them in the country. And he can do it at a very high level, and it's something that I've seen him do since high school. His ability to be able to create shots off the dribble and be able to score coming off of screens is something that makes him a gifted scorer.
Time for three or four more before we get RJ.
Kind of follow up on that.
Go for it.
So how much is making that move a recognition thing? Recognizing, okay, this is when I can get in the lane as opposed to this is when I can get him to move and I can step back and get an open look at myself.
I think it's both. I think it's understanding the moment, who's guarding him, and this is an opportunity to be able to use that. And I also think that that's one of his favorite and go-to moves, being able to step back either way from that direction. So either direction. So I think it's a combination of both, having an awareness of who's guarding him, how he's been played, and also just having the ability to be able to make that shot on a consistent basis.
Aaron.
I wanted to ask you an NIL question. You were at an unusual period. You took over as NIL became the rule of the land, and your assistant time had been something very different. Kind of what do you, when you're now 3 years in, is there a certain impact you point to most that NIL has had on the sport? The money that is available and those types of things to players, the way the recruiting works, anything that stands out in particular to you?
No, I mean, it's just very different than when I was in school. I've always been in favor of name, image, and likeness. I've always felt like our guys should be compensated for their name, image, and likeness in large part because it's being used in a number of different places and platforms. It's very different than when I was in school. These guys, their names and jerseys and T-shirts are all over the place, and they're being used in a number of different ways, and I think they should benefit from it. And I think that's a good thing. One of the things that I think isn't talked about is, them being able to benefit from name, image, and likeness is to help them and to help their families. I mean, that's, it helps their families be able to come to their games. It helps their families be able to be compensated in terms of how many jobs that they have to take. It helps their brothers and sisters be able to go to schools and camps that they normally couldn't go to. And so from that standpoint, I think it's a really good thing. Just
one follow-up. Rick Pitino has talked about the idea of a salary cap. We've seen people saying that things may need to be reined in. There's been a lot of change going on in the sport. can you envision, I mean, what do you think things are gonna be like 5 years, 6 years, as the sport does all these changes? And can you even imagine what that world is gonna be like in the future?
I can't imagine, and I don't spend any time trying to imagine. I never thought in the 3 years that I was head coach that it would be the birth of NIL, the birth of the transfer portal, the extra COVID year, the involvement of agents more so than parents on the backside of a pandemic. So I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. And as I said before, one of the things that I always try to do is focus on what is real, and what is real is us playing NC State tomorrow at 4 p.m.
2 more, Adam, and 1 more.
Hubert, what is real is that.
Very good pivot.
I love that. I love that.
Give me 1 more.
You guys have got 3 games left in regular season.
Yes, that is real.
And the way the math works out, you can finish no worse than second in the league.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you about just the visual of seeing UNC's name on that top line of the ACC standings. You guys have been up there pretty much all season. Like, what sort of pride does that give you? And do you feel like in some ways that this season has helped sort of restore the order? I don't know if that's the right way of phrasing it, but you see what I'm saying? Like, bring some of what you'd been missing back maybe as a program.
It's nice to have success, and it's nice to be in first place, but as I don't think about that. I don't communicate that to the players. It's not something that we talk about. It's not something that we think about. I've always been a preparation and process guy. I got that from Coach Smith. When I was here at school, he took out the stats in the Daily Tar Heel. Didn't know what we were averaging, how many minutes were played. He always told us, if you focus on your preparation and your practice, at the end of the day, your play will take care of itself, individually and as a team. And so that's the way that I've always approached things. That's the way that I coach. That's what I think about. And so in terms of restoring order or being in first place, that's not things that I think about. That's not things that I communicate to the team as well. I just want this team to reach its full potential and be the best that it can be. Wherever that ends up, it ends up. But I want our team to max out on the potential of how good we can be.
Last one, Dan.
Hubert, when you think back to 3 years ago and RJ only started 10 of the 29 games and the level he's playing at now, did you kind of see him making that jump over like the next 3 years, or it doesn't come as a little bit of a surprise, or no?
No, it doesn't come to a surprise at all. And it doesn't come to a surprise. What RJ is doing, not necessarily in terms of the numbers, but this is the way college basketball used to be. Growth. Every year, I don't even know my stats, but I think I got better each year, and that was college basketball. Like, every year you got better, every year you got stronger, every year you got more comfortable, every year you got more confident as a leader, and it was just continued growth on the court, off the court, and in the classroom. So from that standpoint, no, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise because I knew what type of player and person he is, but I am thankful that I feel like this year is the first year that he is truly being celebrated for the type of player he is and has become. And that's something that puts a smile on my face.
Thank you, Coach.